Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to Cherry and Timber Talk. Nice to see happy faces discussing cricket on a Saturday morning slash afternoon slash evening, wherever you guys are. So it's always good to be back on the show, and welcome back, Mahesh, Rajit, and Bash.
Thank you. Thank you, Venu.
Glad to be here.
Alrighty. So I think the cricketing gods were kind to us and ended the India versus New Zealand match pretty early, much earlier than expected. So yeah, here we are discussing cricket once again. So if you guys thought that there's nothing to do on a Saturday evening after the game, here's Cherry and Timber Talk for you. So and I think today's topic is pretty much the talk of the town, an exciting one, and I hope that we can hear some comments from the audience as well and get your insights too, because this is something which is going to be fun. And as we wrote in our promos as well, something which personally is a very challenging thing to do for all of us to compare players between two different eras. But this one is a mouth-watering comparison because of the fact that there are two absolute greats involved in from the game, and I think the numbers are staggering and somewhat unbelievable as well if you look at the contemporaries that they played with, and the other people who are in the top 10 or 20 ODI list of batsmen. So here it is, Sachin versus Virat, and obviously we're not trying to say who's better, who's not, but we are just trying to do an objective comparison if we can, using statistics, using all kinds of parameters that we can judge upon. So, guys, before we come on to this discussion, let me just share a quick stat on screen for our viewers to understand what we're looking at. So, obviously, this is the top 10 ODI run scorers in the history of the game. And there's a very staggering, or a very prominent observation, if you guys can see here, that none of the other guys apart from Virat Kohli in that list are playing the game at present. So which kind of tells you a big story when it comes to comparing the current top ODI run getter in this format, outside of this other people in the list, and how we are looking at data. So just to do a quick recap, Tendulkar looking at 463 matches, 18,426 runs, which is a mountain. Highest score of 200 not out, and average of 44.83, which I think we all would probably agree that in that era, which was probably a really good batting average to have. And considering the span of his career, right, the longevity that we've seen from Tendulkar from 1989 to 2013. And strike rate as well, which is a very important factor. I feel 86 strike rate, maintaining that over a period of 24 years is phenomenal from Sachin's perspective. And 49 hundreds and 96 50s. So that's something which are mind-boggling numbers, and which we probably thought at that point in time will never be overshadowed or broken as a record. But now we're looking at Virat, who is at 46 hundreds already. And looking at his overall stats, Virat Kohli, 269 matches, 260 innings, 12,762 runs, a highest score of 183. The batting average, guys, that is a staggering number out here, 58, which is like mind-boggling. I mean, if somebody would have told me in the 90s that someone would have a batting average of 58 in ODI cricket, I would have been amazed. And strike rate, which is really impressive, 93.67, which is also understandable because of the way the game has kind of moved on from that era. And 46 hundreds and 64 international 50s in ODI cricket. So those are some of the numbers that we're looking at, guys. And again, if you look at second best in that column, apart from Sachin, Sangakkara at 14,234 at 41.98, Ricky Ponting, one of the greats of that era, 13,704 at 42. Sanat Jayasuriya, 13,430 at an average of 32. But again, we could give him a bit of credit for being an all-rounder in the game as well. And he has also picked up a lot of wickets. And plus, he started opening a bit late, and, the way he flourished was mostly after the 96 World Cup. And that's when he really kind of came into the scene. And then we are looking at Jayawardene, 33.37 at 12,000 runs. Inzamam ul Haq, another great from Pakistan, 11,739. The big Jack Callis, he was at 11,579 at 44.36. Saurav Ganguly, I feel one of the most underrated ODI players from India, whom we don't talk about that much when it comes to talking about Sachin and the others. 11,363 at 41, which is again a great figure. And then Rahul Dravid once again, 10,889. So that's the list that we are looking at, guys, when we are doing a complete apple to apple comparison. So first thoughts, I will give it to Mahesh. After looking at that list, what is your overall first thought before we come to our parameters?
Like what you said, Venu, both of them are outstanding cricketers, right? I mean, Sachin Tendulkar has done it over 24 years. Now, 24 years is a long period of time for anybody to stay in the team. I mean, it says a lot about his fitness, his passion, his drive, and then his performance and form. So, on all these counts, I think Tendulkar has been phenomenal over 24 years, and I think, no doubt, I mean, people call him the god of cricket. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But having said that, Virat Kohli in the probably last 10 years, okay, maybe last 3 years must have not have been his best 3 years, but the 3 years preceding that, he was in absolutely startling form. I mean, he scored hundreds, he would just turn up for a game and score hundreds. And if you see, it's very difficult to compare both of them, like what you had mentioned in the post also, because they played in different eras, they played different bowlers, different wickets, different bats, different ground size, all that. But if we can actually look at a period between 2008 and 2012, because those are the years that both of them played. So probably they would have played against the same bowlers. Probably, maybe some games Tendulkar would have not played, some games Virat would not have played. But if you look from 2008 to 2012, I've got some very interesting numbers for you guys. Okay, now in 2008, Tendulkar beats him hollow. His average is 41.82. Kohli's is 31.80. But after that, 2009, 10, 11, and 12. 2010 is an aberration. We don't have to look at it because Tendulkar played just 2 games, out of which one he scored 200 not out. So that's not a number that we would want to see. But between 2009, 11, and 12, it's Virat Kohli all the way. Like maybe in 2009 he just edges Tendulkar, but in 11 and 12, in 2012, that is the last year of Tendulkar's international career, Tendulkar averages just 31.50 and Virat averages 68.4. So from that time onwards, it's Virat taking over from Tendulkar, the change of the baton or whatever you want to call it. So maybe that's not good enough numbers to actually, or the data is not enough for us to make any kind of conclusion. But this is an observation that I could find out. And I said, okay, this is a period when both of them played cricket together for India. I mean, so they would have played against the same opponents and all. So that's one thing. Another reason why Tendulkar was so successful was also because he came to bat right up the order. Right?
Yep.
Till 1994, Tendulkar was not the Tendulkar that we came to know of him later. Okay,
Yep.
Because in 1994, the first time that he came out to bat as an opener. Now, when Tendulkar bats at number 3, his average is just 10.22 over 10 innings. So that's a small number. But when he bats at number 4, which he batted for almost 61 innings, his average is only 38.85. So that is something that says that he batted very well when he came on top of the order. And that could be also another reason why he was able to score so many runs. But all in all, very difficult to compare, very difficult to say who's better than whom. But if you just look at purely at the numbers, like the average that we just saw, 58 is a staggering number. And there's nobody anywhere close to him, right? Yep. Whereas when Tendulkar scores 44 as his average, you have Jack Khalid, you have Sangakkara, they're all in the 40s. So there's somebody close to them. But at 58, I don't see anybody coming really close to him for some time.
Interesting, yeah. And I think, you're probably right, Mahesh. And I think another important aspect, Rajit, while we do this comparisons, also the batting number that they both play at. Obviously, Tendulkar is pure opener. If I could consider, if I could leave aside those few innings that Mahesh mentioned, whereas Kohli bats at number 3. So that's also a big factor, telling a story wherein, even though Kohli bats at number 3, he still gets those daddy hundreds. He still kind of plays through those big knocks in big situations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at obviously it's very difficult to compare batsmen of 2 different eras because there are a lot of variables which are not common between the era that Sachin played and the era that Virat has been playing. But the kind of impact that Virat has left, if you look at it, I mean, in terms of number of hundreds that Virat has scored while India winning and chasing, Virat has scored
Yep.
22 hundreds. Whereas
Yep.
on the other hand, Sachin has scored 14. And
Hmm.
between Sachin and Virat, their conversion rate from half centuries to hundreds is also there's an interesting difference there. Sachin's conversion rate is around 33%. Virat's conversion rate is around 42%. So the numbers that we showed on the screen just tells
Yep.
the story, right? I mean, and the rate at which Virat scores a 50 plus score in the number of innings that he has played so far is every 2.3 innings he scores a 50 plus score, whereas Sachin was around 3 plus innings. While in terms, it's not a huge difference, but still, if you look at
It
the
is
conversion
significant.
rate and the impact that Virat has had on the white ball, specifically ODI cricket, has been phenomenal.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So, Bhash, let's now come down to those variables that Rajat is speaking about. Like, let's go step by step now, and I think I'll put you on the spot with the first one, which is obviously the quality of bowling and the wickets that Sachin played on versus what Virat faces and where he plays these days. So,
Right.
what's the overall difference between the two according to you?
Yeah, I think with regard to at least ODI cricket, I think Sachin played a far superior quality of bowling. I would sort of stick my neck out if I were to sort of think of a Dale Steyn. There are so many bowlers in international who have been excellent Test bowlers, but they've not been able to replicate their form in
Yep.
ODIs. Say, as an Akram or a Megra when Sachin was at his peak, they were just geniuses with the ball, or a Shane Warne, or they were just whether any format that they played in. There was no T20 cricket back then, but
Yep.
any format that they played in, they were just genuinely good bowlers.
Yep.
Now, if I were to sort of think of peak stain when Virat was in the 2013 Test series, which Sachin played, where it was just, peak stain. Virat had Virat has had probably easier bowling to
Hmm.
face. Plus, since we didn't play Pakistan, you
Yep.
automatically sort of in Virat peak time, barring we stopped playing Pakistan 2008 onwards. So
Yep.
Sachin had to play Pakistan far more often, who have the best quality of bowlers. So with regard to quality of bowling, I think uh, Virat has had it much easier, and particularly also I think now ODI cricket, to cater to fans, the pitches have gone flatter and flatter. It's You've got so many 300 scores in Sachin's time, but till NatWest, NatWest was sort of our moment that we could chase down anything above 300, but barring that you would have just one or two
Yep.
instances that we could comfortably chase down. Here
Yep.
uh, ODIs have 300, like it's almost on par, a par score now. So I would say that wickets and quality of bowling, I think Sachin had it far harder than Virat did. That's
Absolutely. And I think one more interesting aspect there, Bash, which comes out of that is the boundary sizes also. I don't know. I don't have any statistics to support this, but from a visual evidence, I can definitely say that the boundary sizes have definitely reduced in overall international cricket. I think the first and foremost sight which came to my mind was, I was just actually browsing some old highlights from those grounds in Australia. And trust me, those were like humongous. I was looking at that India versus, I don't know if you guys have, I'm sure all of us have seen that
Rishikesh
game.
Kanitka's catch on the boundary of Inzamam.
So that was the old Adelaide Oval, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about the other boundaries as well. For example, the Waka, Perth, right? I was just seeing the highlights of the India versus West Indies game, which was tied, right, in
Mm.
1991-92.
Yes.
And trust me, one of the batsmen, just played a pull shot and the ball just went into, deep mid wicket. And it was there forever, literally. The fielder took ages to reach there and then throw it back to the keeper. And, those boundary sizes were humongous. If you see the Waka now or even the other ground, even MCG for that matter, right? Square boundaries, yes, they are still big, but the front boundaries are pretty small, So these renovations on grounds have kind of reduced the boundary sizes also, which means that people can hit a lot more sixes and boundaries as well. So I think that has kind of completely changed the equation as well. And coming back to Mahesh, I think the biggest factor which we probably feel, all of us, I think, would agree is the quality of bats. I think if you could kind of make it in an era, say post the mid, in the first decade of 2000, right? Say around 2005-6 onwards. After that, the quality of bats completely started changing, right, with the advent of T20 cricket. And I think the way the bats are compressed now, and the way they are kind of ready to go and just take a hit, it Gone are the days where you used to kind of play with the old ball, apply linseed oil and all those kind of stuff. Right now, it's all ready to use and throw.
Yeah, very true. But I think Tendulkar would have had good bat from 2004-5 onwards.
Yep.
Okay, I don't think bats would have made too much of a difference. But yeah, in his initial part, he wouldn't have had the bat, so he wouldn't have been able to score the kind of runs that you're talking about. But yeah, these are things that as the game evolves. Now look at somebody like Sunil Gavaskar. The kind of equipments that he had was very, very ordinary. I mean, they would tuck in actually towels instead of thigh guards so that they wouldn't get hurt. I mean, those were the days also. And he played, I think, quality bowling, which is far, far more lethal than what even Sachin Tendulkar played, right? I mean, look at Garner, Holding, Roberts. So the game evolves. The bats have evolved. The ground has changed. The dimensions have changed. So this is going to be a continuous process. I mean, the next great batsman who's going to come from India, he might have things relatively easier.
Yep.
But also remember one thing, while this is happening, the technology is actually trying to find even a single chink in your armory, and the word spreads around very quickly. I mean, there are coaches waiting with Hawkeyes, to try and figure out where is he going wrong. In the earlier times, word had to spread.
Yep.
I mean, that, this guy was not good against a bouncer, or somebody is not good against an incoming delivery. But these days,
cricket wasn't televised enough in that era.
it wasn't televised, so we never knew about it, right? We read in newspaper the next day, or we heard radio commentary, and if it was the West Indies, the commentary would keep there will be a lot of disturbances and all that thing. So technology has had its share of helping the bowlers to try and figure out where they've gone wrong, or what the batsman is weak when it comes to facing them. So there is a lot of advantages and disadvantages as we've moved ahead. But having said that, like what Rajat very correctly said, Virat Kohli has played some brilliant innings while chasing. And we all know setting a score is, nothing is easy, but it is relatively easy. But when you're chasing something like 300 plus, and he's done that time and time again. I mean, he's done it at Hobart, he's done it at Mirpur, Mohali, Pune. I mean, he's done it so often that you start to believe that this guy, give him any score, and he will be able to pull it off. I mean, T20 World Cup against Pakistan is not an ODI, but then he just pulled India from a position of defeat to a victory. So as far as chasing is concerned, and I give a lot of credit and a lot of points to somebody who can chase down a score, especially a huge score, I don't think Sachin is as good as Virat, unfortunately. But I'm a huge fan of Sachin Tendulkar, make no mistake. But I think the numbers would suggest that Virat might edge Tendulkar in the chasing department.
I don't know which planet you're living on in 1998. I will disagree. But if you didn't think so,
see, okay, that's the only thing that you would remember any which ways, or probably the 2003 World Cup. But look at the number of times that he's chased in and won it for India, right?
I know. I was just kidding. So, but yeah, I mean, if I can put it this way, we could probably look at Sachin's careers in two halves, Rajat. Obviously the first half where he was the master blaster, basher, and the guy who would just take on world bowling, and the second half of his career, maybe post the 2003 World Cup, if I may say so, wherein he became an accumulator of sorts and the anchor who kind of, where everybody rallied around him. So I think probably there is a difference between those two genres of Sachin Tendulkar in terms of how he played when he was kind of the lone ranger, where he had to take the attack to the opposition because there was literally nobody around him till the Fab Four came into existence, and till say Ganguly, Dravid, and all the others started playing and rallying around him. So I think that's probably one thing which has changed in his career because of longevity as well, right?
Yeah, so that's the point I was about to touch. I mean, if you look at Sachin's career in two halves, initially he was a lone ranger. I mean, I really don't remember who used to open for India at that point of time, apart from Sachin.
There were many.
It was a musical chair, right? Yeah. So and who came after him? So until unless Rahul Dravid and Gangulis came on the scene and Sehwags came on the scene, there was nobody virtually. I mean, there was Mohammad Azharuddin, and he was somebody you can never rely on. Whereas Virat Kohli had a question of Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan at the top.
Yep.
And then he had the likes of MS Dhoni and Suresh Raina who could really finish the game off.
Yep.
So that allowed freedom to Virat Kohli, in terms of having playing his natural game. That was one of the reasons.
Yep.
Sachin Tendulkar, as you rightly said, he was more of an accumulator, and he was the fulcrum around which the others revolved. And Sourav Ganguly, if you see his opening partnership, I mean, it's one of the best opening pair in history of one-day cricket. And Sourav
Yep.
Ganguly was the aggressor. And then you had the likes of Rahul Dravid and the youngsters like Mohammad Kaif and Yuvraj Singh used to follow and give the final impetus. So
Yep.
yeah, so obviously the roles changed.
Mhm.
So it's very, very difficult to compare and kind of put a finger that Virat is better or Sachin is better.
Yep.
A lot of
But
things
I
have
do
changed over
agree.
the course of time.
I do agree with you and Mahesh when you say that the chasing aspect, definitely yes, because of the fact that, statistically you cannot go wrong with Virat Kohli when it comes to looking at those numbers versus, say, Tendulkar when it comes to chasing, right? Those high impact innings and the ease with which he does it, right? That's something which is completely out of the world. And I think it's very hard to kind of, say that Sachin was better than Virat in that aspect for sure.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, when it comes to chasing, there is second to none. I would say Virat Kohli, his mind works like a computer. I mean,
yep.
you take Hobart for that instance, like Mirpur.
Yep.
Those innings were fabulous, and in chase you cannot match Virat Kohli for sure.
Absolutely. One interesting aspect, guys, and I think this is something which definitely is a huge factor. I think, in my opinion, this as well as this, I think the batting power plays and field restrictions, plus the two new balls in ODI cricket, it's been a complete game changer of sorts, right, Rajit? When it comes to comparing cricket in the 90s, and I think Mahesh will also agree, the Pakistan bowling of the 90s was famous for reverse swing, and everybody else also around the world started catching up with reverse swing. So I feel that aspect of the game has completely vanished since the advent of two new balls.
Yes,
Rajit?
yes, and then let's not forget, Sachin also played in an era where he played one-day cricket with a red ball as well. And
Exactly.
red ball, obviously, as we know, it does far better and moves in the air far better than the white ball. Now,
Yep.
white ball, what it has done, I don't remember except 1992 World Cup and 1996. Is those are two World Cups when he used two new balls. I mean, 25 overs each. So that kind of negated the reverse swing. There was a
Mhm.
period between 2007 and 2012 when only one new ball was used, and then after 34th or 35th over, a reconditioned ball was brought into the picture, and
Yep.
that kind of brought in another reverse swing aspect as well.
Yep.
But with two new balls, of course, it's like the reverse swing is completely out of equation. If you see
Yep.
cricket in early 90s, even the white ball used to swing a lot initially.
Exactly.
But now the white ball surprisingly doesn't swing, except of course you have some skills, ballers with certain skills like Bhuvi or somebody else for that matter, Mohammad Shami for that matter. The
Yep.
ball moves only for first 3-4 overs. After that, it's
Yeah.
Yep.
completely like a bowling machine.
Yep.
So that's a
Agreed.
huge difference.
Agreed.
And obviously the power play restrictions are like initially when Sachin played, it was around 15
15
overs
overs.
is
Yep.
when you had two fielders outside the circle, and then you had five fielders outside the circle for the rest of 35 overs. So
Yep.
that has played a huge role,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
In defense of Sachin, I mean, I just had 2 or 3 points. I know, yeah. So
Yeah.
the two things. One is that the quality of the Indian bowling when Virat is playing, has been playing, has improved. Leaps and bounds. I would say
Mhm.
that for Sachin, whether it was to bat first, he knew that kuch bhi banaunga, they may not be enough. So there was that pressure because with the quality of bowling. Plus, while chasing, I just believe that what opposing captain used to do, and I don't know, there's no way to have a statistic on this. Is probably the best bowlers bowl to Sachin, which Virat had the luxury. You
Yep.
knew that if you got Sachin out,
Yeah.
right, you wouldn't have a dibbly dobbly bowler or a part timer bowling to Sachin very often. Although apart from Hansi Kroni and there were some other instances, but Sachin had to face like the top three or the top four of their bowlers. I
Yep.
think Virat had the luxury that since you after Virat you had a Dhoni or a Raina or a Yuvraj, Virat had that luxury to face all the bowlers that came in. I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm just trying to think aloud that
Hmm.
probably the pressure that Sachin was under, whether it was while setting a total as well as chasing, was probably that higher. That
Yep.
and there was a spring in the stride. We have lost that test match to Pakistan, which we shouldn't have, even after Sachin got out. That Hyderabad heartbreak, That match inexplicably, which Sachin performed brilliant at Sharjah, where we had to qualify, we should have actually won that match 98. We have lost some matches inexplicably after Sachin has got out. So of course that ratio, the Rawalpindi match, we could have done better. I mean, of course, Ramesh Pawar. I'm talking about Pakistan 2004. So there have been instances where statistics sometimes don't do justice to his brilliance because the others have not brought us home.
Yep.
I think, but yes, what I will say in Virat's defense is Virat had the staying power of staying till the end. He finished the job more often than not, So, I mean, if you see a hopeless situation with Kedar Jadhav in Pune, or many a times he just finished the job more often than not. So for that, I don't think there can be any debate. But I think Sachin didn't have that luxury of having a sort of a cushion of bowlers and batsmen. That's just.
I think it was a given that in the 90s, if Sachin got out, India loses, right? That's how it was. And it's not something which the fans only thought about, but also, teams like Australia put it on record, right? Mark Taylor has said this, that, now.
And we used to switch off the TV, right?
Yeah.
After Sachin got out, we used to switch off the TV.
And I can remember many instances of that happening even in the NatWest Trophy final. I think the moment it was Tendulkar who got out, people just switched off the television. 146 went home, right? So
Yes, parents went to believe us, right? They didn't believe in him. They didn't believe in their own son.
So Venu, you were saying that Tendulkar became an accumulator after probably 2000, 2002. Also, you should remember one thing: he had a lot of injuries. And that, actually he stopped playing a lot of shots. I mean, some of the strokes that he got a lot of runs, like the pull and all. I think he just couldn't play those shots. So considering all that, I think he did a fantastic job because he played for another 10, 12 years in international cricket and scored a lot of runs. I mean, he was the second highest scorer in the 2011 World Cup. So that's phenomenal.
I think barring great point, Mahesh. Barring this 2007 World Cup, I think Sachin in World Cups was a phenomenon of sorts.
Phenomenal, no doubt about it.
He used to turn up for India and he used to be literally the highest scorer or the highest impact player. Barring that 2007 World Cup, which was an aberration and which was obviously a heartbreak for all his fans as well. But I think, in 96, he was a gun player. 99, he did well as well. Poor guy had to go back home because of his father's death. And
he came back and scored a century.
Against Kenya, I know. 2003, he was phenomenal. I mean, that innings against Pakistan, you can never match that quality against that kind of bowling. 2007, again, like I said, was an aberration. But 2011 as well, the way he kind of completely turned around India's fortunes, opening the batting and scoring those hundreds as well, right? Except for the finals, I believe all the other games, he had a huge impact.
Especially in the semi-finals against Pakistan. Of course, he had a few lives, no doubt about that. But he still managed to stay there, and score those runs, which came very handy to us. I think in the 2011 World Cup finals, had he scored some runs, maybe he could have retired probably 2 years before.
I would say Sachin played one of the best ODI cricket. Sorry, Rajit, just after the 2007 World Cup, we won in Australia both the finals. He played 2 big knocks. Against Pakistan in the home series, Umar Gul, Shoaib Akhtar, he set some 3 or 4 90s. Phenomenal batting in the home series in India. So I think he played one of his best ODI cricket. I mean, his second win in Tests and ODI in 2007 to 11 was just
he was phenomenal.
I think he was. I mean, he moved from that accumulator role again to sort of try and stuff. I think his batting.
He started enjoying the game, like they say.
Yeah, I still remember that one knock. I think in Jamshedpur or somewhere in Kanpur or something. I think even in England, he was wrongly given out with that to Chris Tremlett or something. Yes, even in England, he performed very well. I would say that Sachin was terrific in between 2007 to 11.
Yeah. I think when Mahesh told me about that, he started playing lesser shots. I just remembered that probably the last full-blooded pull shot that Sachin played was against Andrew Caddick in that 2003 World Cup.
Correct. And the ball went out of the ground.
After that, I've never seen him play such an audacious shot ever. Sorry, Rajit, you were saying something.
No, so the point I'm trying to make is what Mahesh rightly touched upon. Injuries obviously had a big role to play in Sachin's career. So if you see his career, he got his first 30 hundreds in around 260, 250, 265 ODIs that he played. In the last 1900s, that almost took another 200 ODIs. But the thing that we are missing here is the number of 90s that Sachin would have got out of 90s, and that will be a phenomenal number as well, I'm sure, in its own self. So,
True.
but yeah, like the impact in terms of the power that he had and all. Obviously, he was not a free flowing Sachin that we saw over the years, but
Yep.
I mean, who can debate about Sachin Tendulkar?
I think the amount of ODI cricket also, right, played in these two eras has been completely different, right? Because, and I think one thing which we completely forget is Virat is playing all three formats of the game, whereas Sachin used to play only the ODI and the Test format, and that too, he used to pick and choose a little bit of ODI cricket towards the end of his career. He didn't play all the series, right? So in that aspect, definitely statistically, right, Kohli has played more games per se in his short career compared to a Sachin versus what Sachin used to play. The ODI cricket part in the 90s and early 2000s was huge in terms of the number of games being played. But post that, since the advent of T20 cricket, I think now the number of games have also started coming down. And now there's more T20 cricket being played than ODI cricket as well. So that's also a big factor which has come into the game.
Cricket has become more demanding also. Like,
Yeah,
as a sport, it has become very demanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to be physically so fit. Look at somebody like Virat. I mean, he has to be fit. Like what you said, he plays all three formats of the game. So he has to keep traveling, playing. I mean, there is a lot of workload on him.
Yep. Is it fair to say, Mahesh, that cricket has to be now looked at pre-IPL and post-IPL era in terms of how it has changed the game pre-2008 and post-2008?
It should be, because cricket has completely changed across the world with after IPL came in 2008. I mean, franchise cricket now is there in every country. So, and there are a lot of players from different countries who put in give a lot of importance to franchise cricket, which I think is affecting the international cricket. I mean, look at somebody like the West Indies team. I mean, when they turn out to play even a World Cup, they don't even qualify. I mean, look at the West Indian team of about 30 years back. Nobody could even defeat them. Forget defeating them. The only objective was to lose with grace, right? I mean, losing was definitely happening. It was only to try and ensure that the match lasted 5 days.
Yeah.
I mean, if they lasted 5 days, it was a great thing. And the same West Indies team now is actually struggling in every tournament that they play. They lose to countries like Zimbabwe, and it's sad. I mean, I think ICC should take stock of that. I think cricket should be reduced. I mean, where do they reduce? Who do they say not to play? Big challenge now in hand.
Yep, agreed. And I think even for that matter, Pakistan playing at home as well, right? That has become a big factor now because they haven't played any home series for so long. And now this year they've started playing. And the quality of pitches definitely did not do justice to the return of international cricket to Pakistan, right? So I think who would have imagined, say, 10 to 12 years back or even 20 years back, Pakistan not winning a single test match at home, right? That is like unheard of, right? Because those guys were masters in their own conditions, right? With reverse swing, with spin, and we had the likes of Saqlain Mushtaq, we had, as spinners, we had Wasim Bakar, Shoaib Akhtar steaming in, and I think that kind of audacity which they used to show and the unpredictableness of Pakistan cricket is kind of now missing, right? So that's a huge factor as well. And I think that's one point which I wanted to bring up as well, guys. Most runs scored against specific oppositions, and I think that's also a huge factor in doing a fair comparison. I think Sachin's record or his style of play against, say, an Australia or even a Pakistan, that was in that 90s era against that kind of quality of bowling and against that Australian team as well, right, which won 3 World Cups on the trot. That was something which was completely phenomenal, right, Rajit?
Yeah, so when we talk of individual records against each opposition, I mean, and we talk of SENA countries as the benchmark for any Indian batsman or any subcontinent batsman for that matter. Sachin has scored consistently at a rate of around 44, 45 against be it Australia, England, New Zealand. South Africa is one place or one opponent where his average is really, really pathetic. It's I would say pathetic by his standards. It's in the range of around 35. So that's where Virat has kind of, if you look at Virat's record in that compared to SENA countries, Virat has scored consistently at an average of over 50 against all these opponents. In fact, on the contrary, against South Africa, his average is in the range of 60 plus, whereas Sachin is in the range of 35. So obviously, I mean, again, I'll come to the same point. We are not comparing apple to apple over here, but
Yep.
And the biggest factor would be the bowling, the quality of bowling attack. You look at the Australia when Sachin played, he had the likes of Glenn McGrath, Shane Warne, Damon Fleming at his prime. You
Yep.
had Alan Donald, Fonny de Villiers. So
Yep.
those were completely outstanding fast bowlers, and that was a
And
brilliant
Wasim
bowling attack.
Wakar, Sachin, Shoaib
Azim
Akhtar,
Wakar, yeah. West Indies had
so,
Ambrose Walsh.
Ambrose
Uh,
Walsh. Yep.
you had
Agreed.
so they were
Rishabh,
like phenomenal fast bowling attack. Bishop,
Murali
yeah.
was as well, for that matter. Yeah, absolutely. I think
There
all
was a
those.
chap called Cameron Cuffy. There was a chap called Cameron Cuffy. He also came to India and troubled us.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think I agree.
so that's a huge difference in the quality of bowling attacks. And obviously
Yeah.
the rules have changed here. Largely, I mean, we've seen a lot of 300 plus scores. Like Vash rightly pointed out, before NetWest, nobody could even imagine a 300 plus total being chased down. There was one incident in isolation in Dhaka when we won that Independence Cup in Bangladesh against Pakistan, the second final.
That was a huge
But
achievement.
it was a huge achievement.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, like 300 is a norm in one day cricket. Now, if you don't
Yeah.
get 400, and I'm sure in the coming World Cup, 400 will be a norm with the way some of the teams are playing. So,
Yep.
one day cricket has changed tremendously. It's an extension of T20, I would say.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to come to this point. Batting averages of other no. There is
Exactly.
nobody close to him in ODI cricket, though. I mean, among his contemporaries, if you were to put Sachin aside and not have this comparison, he is
Yep.
by far in ODI cricket like he's the king. I mean, he's just by far better than anyone else. I mean, I would say Rohit is the only one who has been off late consistent enough who can challenge him. But barring that, in international cricket, I don't think there's anyone
Yep.
close to him in terms of ODI cricket, in terms of his consistency and his finishing abilities and everything. I think Rohit and Dhoni, I mean, Dhoni, of course, now is retired, but Dhoni peak was just phenomenal as a finisher. But I
So
think
to
that there's
your
no.
point, Bash, the number 11, which is not on this list here, but if I look at the records, is MS Dhoni. And I think credit to him to bat in that position, batting
Oh,
position,
yes.
still have an ODI average of 50, which is phenomenal, and 10,700 runs, which is like, I believe that that's something which is a benchmark of sorts. But I think coming back to your point, Bash, the contemporaries, right? With Virat, with Sachin, at least he had company in the form of, people averaging in the 40s, right, alongside him, the Pontings and the Sangakkar of the world. But with Virat's case, that 58 looks, miles ahead of others, right, in terms of a batting average comparison. Nobody else is in that list. We were talking about Steve Smith before this show, right? We were kind of off air speaking about where is he right now. So he's at 4,900 runs right now, and he's in the early 40s as an average. So obviously, that also tells you a story that the amount of cricket that India plays and ODI cricket as well, and also the consistency with which Virat kind of scores those runs, right? So that's telling you a huge story in terms of, yes, comparison with Sachin, but in terms of his contemporaries in today's format, I don't think anybody can challenge Virat in the ODI format of the game.
There's nobody who
And
comes close.
another interesting point is, if you look at the number of innings that Virat has played, he has played around 260, 265 innings in ODI cricket.
Yep.
yeah.
India has won in around 160 of his Virat's one-day innings have been winning causes.
Mhm.
Out of 260, 160 innings have been in winning causes, which is a phenomenal record to have.
Phenomenal.
Whereas on
Yeah.
Sachin, on the other hand, 450 odd innings in ODIs, around 230 innings is where India has ended up on a winning cause when Sachin has been
Yeah.
there. So there's a huge difference. I mean, if you look at the percentage of their contribution to team total, it's more or less the same. I mean, I was looking at one of the stats, and percentage of their contribution to team total is roughly in the region of 18 to 19%. So there you don't see much of a difference. But in terms of impact, obviously Virat edges out Sachin, so to speak, when it comes to ODI cricket.
Interesting. There's just one last point, and I thought, and this is a slightly, I don't know, I won't say controversial, but it's more of, it's kind of a subjective matter. And Mahesh, I just thought, we should bring this up as well. One thing which has changed in the game, especially post 2008, and this is when it was first introduced in cricket, was the DRS, and now it's being regularly used across formats, right? So do you think this has an impact in the way the batsman plays? Because now more and more bowlers are getting LBW decisions in their favor, with the batsman even charging down the wicket as well, right? So which was kind of a no-no in that such an era. That's number one. Number two is that a lot of the batsmen are able to reverse the decisions which were wrongly given. And I think I think Baj spoke about that innings that came to my mind with Sachin in England, wherein, he was in 99, I believe, when he was given out when it touched his elbow guard and stuff. So I think those also play a factor, Mahesh. Do you think?
Oh, definitely. But if you see over a period of time, since Tendulkar played for 24 years, it would have evened out fairly bit. He would have got a few good decisions. He would have got not good. He would have got few decisions going his way, and there will be some odd decision that he would not have got. DRS actually eliminates the chances of an umpire making a mistake. So now it would have. What Virat Kohli is getting is whether if he's out, he's out. I mean, so to me, yeah. But with DRS coming in, it has only improved the game. Maybe Tendulkar might have been unfortunate not to have the DRS when he was playing for all through 24 years. Or maybe certain times he could have been out and the DRS would have actually given him out and he did not get, he was not declared out by the umpire. So I don't know whether DRS actually could be a reason for us to actually debate whether Tendulkar would have benefited or not benefited. Maybe in 24 years' time, I think everything evens out.
I hope Saeed Ajmal is watching the show.
I think Sachin got a raw deal. Just from top of my head, I can think there were 3 LBW decisions in Sri Lanka of Dilara Fernando, if I'm not mistaken. All 3 were missing leg stump. First over, Sachin was given out all the 3 times. I think, I'm just trying to think aloud. These are just 3 instances that come to mind. I think, at least with the LBW or thing, I think Sachin would have got a far more raw deal as compared to Virat. That's just my perception.
Probably, yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, we will always remember all the incidents when Tendulkar was not out and given out. There would be the others also who would say the other way around.
But you know what, guys? There is actually a YouTube video with all the Sachin dismissals which were not out and were given out. So you should.
There is one.
So the caption,
the LBW of mass which Buckner did not give in Sri Lanka.
So I was coming to that gentleman. The caption here should have been DRS strokes to you, Buckner. Because Sachin and Love, really, they had a brilliant relationship. But let's not forget. Talking of technology, in fact, Sachin was the first batsman in the history of the game to be given out by a third umpire in Test match at Durban.
Run out, right? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Run out.
And imagine, guys, how the game has changed. We are talking about the third umpire giving a run-out dismissal, and now the game has completely changed beyond belief, wherein every small detail is kind of being looked at with the camera and with other technologies as well, right? So obviously, cricket has changed so much in these last 20 to 30 years, right? So it's kind of unrecognizable, the sport, right? Where it used to be, if you look at the previous yesteryear highlights, and now it's kind of driven by technology, and there's so much of third umpire's interference in the game as well, right? With soft signals coming into the play and all those kind of stuff. So which is kind of good to see as well, because obviously it also makes for interesting viewing, because there were so many dismissals which we used to just look at it and say, man, how did you give that out, right? So, but now it's kind of always debated, and and there are instances which also happen, like the previous ODI in which Hardik Pandya was given out even after.
Absolute shocker.
So,
Sachin also in the Desert Storm was not out, at least with that LBW.
Yes.
And I think even that thing is, so, I'm trying to think of course, partial to Sachin as it's.
So I think to conclude, I can definitely say, Vaj, that DRS has been a factor. At least now you can get decisions reversed and not be given wrongly, out wrongly in terms of, looking at, an obvious scenario, right? So obviously, and even in test matches, right, for that matter, we are kind of slightly deviating, but Tendulkar was given out so many times, especially on tours of Australia. I remember in the 1999 tour, shoulder bit before the wicket, and then there was a couple of instances where he was given out, caught down the leg side and stuff. So obviously, all that kind of, comes back to haunt him, in terms of how we could have achieved more if DRS was there during his time as well. So yeah, I was just saying that when Mahesh pointed about those LBWs and stuff, I was saying that I hope Saeed Ajmal is watching the show, because that 2011 semi-final will come to haunt him as well.
He'll still reckon it was out.
It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just don't understand how, when you see it, replay, real time, it just out. I don't understand.
Tendulkar himself was stunned, I guess.
No, it was one of those where you actually should not, if it was not Tendulkar, any other player, you should not have gone for DRS.
Yeah.
It was that out.
Yeah, and I think, and there are instances like Elgar as well from last year, right? Which happened in South Africa, which was a shocker as well. So yeah, I think so. Now we are living in interesting times wherein we are debating whether technology is correct or no, whereas earlier we used to debate whether the umpire is correct or not. So it's now it's kind of man versus machine where we are living in. So interesting discussion, guys. I think. It's really hard to conclude, to be very honest, but I think we all have our personal biases. I can't disagree with all of you when you say that Virat is the best of this era for sure. That is a complete given, and statistically you cannot prove anybody wrong with that. But when it comes to, I think, some of the other factors in the game, like we all discussed, I still kind of believe that Sachin, not just for Indian cricket, I still believe that, my personal opinion, that he revolutionized ODI cricket, the way it was played in the 90s. And, when he started opening the innings and the way he started, taking on the bowling in the first 15 overs and then kind of, anchoring the innings till the end, that probably set a template for world cricket. And, not just with his hitting range and his strokes, but also with running between the wickets, stringing partnerships and stuff. So I think that kind of set the template for ODI cricket in the 90s, I believe. And that kind of was followed by other teams across the world. So he set a benchmark of sorts, if I may say so.
I think it was thanks to Navjot Singh Sidhu in 1994 in Eden Park that Sachin opened the innings for the first time in ODIs.
Yep. Siddharth is like, if it's hard to conclude, can I join for 5 minutes? Definitely, yes. On some other day, Siddharth, not today. We have to kind of end the show, but yeah, we will get you in for the next time for sure. But I know he has a lot of strong points. Thanks for joining in, Siddharth. So great, guys. Wonderful discussion once again, and I think looking forward to the Border Gavaskar Trophy in February, which is like now the ultimate site in Test cricket, at least for Indians and Australians. I think that rivalry is something which cannot be matched in the current day format, and I think it's kind of pretty much similar to what the Ashes is for England and Australia, right? And I think that's something which is a treat for all cricket fans, and I hope that we get a replay of what we saw in 2020, 2021. So that would be a mouth-watering contest of sorts.
That would be fantastic.
Any sign-off predictions?
Okay. In fact, before we do that, Rajat, before we come to that, actually, I also wanted to sign off with one more thing. I just wanted you guys to kind of summarize or maybe just call out one Sachin innings and one Virat innings which will stay in your memory forever. Maybe start with Vash.
Yeah, I think Sachin innings would be the 175. Although we lost, I was very biased to the 98, which we won, but that 175 against Australia at Hyderabad is probably the greatest innings in a losing cause. I mean, if you were to consider that, I mean, I'm never for it. Although it's a bilateral, I know the stakes are. But it's sad that I remember a innings which is a lost cause. But I think he was just phenomenal. I mean, that quality of batsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And then the manner in which he batted, I mean, that's that 175 I remember. And with Virat, it has to be I mean, of course he has played far more film, but the coming of age of Virat was how he treated Malinga. For some reason I'm still unable to, we were in a hopeless situation. We had to chase down the score in 40 overs. Sachin was out, Sehwag was out. And that the manner in which that over to Malinga, and you realize that he is going to be, that image of Virat will always be. Everything else is then later, but that innings at Hobart will stay with me because he gave us it was a shame that Australia lost to Sri Lanka and we couldn't qualify for the final. But that innings of Virat will stay with me forever.
Yeah, I think that was the coming of age for sure, like you rightly said. Mahesh, your thoughts?
To me, Sachin's 98. A, because it was against Pakistan. B, it was in South Africa. And C, it was a World Cup. Couldn't have got bigger, right? So on 3 counts, I think it was a phenomenal innings. And I don't think he would do anything wrong that day. I mean, anything he did was going to the boundary. And after the first maybe after about the first few overs, then his game completely changed. So that was a very good thing to understand, right? He started off attacking. And then suddenly he went into the defensive mode and started collecting runs. And by the time he got out, I think India was like 200 or something like that. And it did not look like that we would lose from there. And I would go with Bash for Virat Kohli, the Hobart inning. If a bowler of Malinga's caliber goes for 97 runs in some 7-point-odd overs, I believe that should have been the best innings that Virat has played, and I don't think he can play a better innings than that.
Interesting. Rajat?
So Sachin, I would say, obviously the 90 odd at Centurion takes the cake. I mean, it was an amazing counter-attacking innings. 275 against that Pakistan attack at Centurion in a World Cup game was a phenomenal innings. I mean, and another innings, I mean, in fact, two. Another innings which I really liked about Sachin was the 1992 game against Pakistan in Sydney. He scored 50 odd, but it was against, I mean, it was young Sachin against the likes of Imran Khan, Wasim Akram, and that was really a very
Javed,
commanding
and
innings, I would say.
Mushtaq Ahmed.
Aqib Javed, yes. And Mushtaq Ahmed was there. Yeah. So that was two innings, both against Pakistan. And I distinctly remember one of his shots. I don't remember how much he scored, but at a flick over square leg against Wasim Akram at Sharjah was one of the shots that really, is an image that stays in my memory. Virat Kohli, you cannot look beyond that Hobart innings. I mean, obviously that was magical. I mean, he simply murdered Malinga that day. Malinga, I'm sure, will be having nightmares till date.
Interesting. I think from my side, it's really hard to choose for Sachin. I would love to say 98 at Centurion, but I still have a bias with the 1998 Desert Storm. I mean, to do it twice in 2 games was something out of the world. And I think that was stuff of superheroes, to be honest. It's like one man showing the world what he can do and, showing the country what he can do alone, right?
143, no? The one that we qualified.
Yeah.
That
innings was, I mean, completely out of the world. The finals was also equally good, but again, that innings of 143 to ensure, right, that India.
Kohli was asked this question: if you could borrow one Sachin innings which you should have played, he mentioned the 143.
Yeah.
He said, "I don't think I could play that."
And that was no pedestrian attack as well, right? You had an Australian attack which consisted of Shane Warne, Kasparov, Fleming, and all those guys, right? And strong Australian outfield as well, right? So there was a reason why they were in the finals because
and one of the most
one
of the most underrated Sachin innings is the first final of CB series in Australia. We were chasing 240 odd. Sachin scored 117. India had never won a tri-series final in Australia. That was the first time we broke that barrier. Sachin scored 117. I think Rohit Sharma scored 60 odd.
Yeah, and I think the second one he scored 90 again, I think.
91 he scored, I believe, in the second final.
Yes.
Second final again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed. With Virat, I think, yes, you guys have listed the Hobart innings. For sure, quality innings. But I also feel that he followed it up with that innings against Pakistan, the 183 which he scored. I think that was also a superb innings in a chase, right? We all have spoken about how good he is in chasing. And, but again, if recency bias comes in, and if I'm kind of slightly deviating from the topic, I would like to be where Bhash was in October 2022 at the MCG against Pakistan. That innings, I think nothing can match that excitement and that level of...
Nothing can match that.
So I think I made I made myself a collage out of that. I don't know if you guys can see, but that's on my background there. So it's that Virat Kohli shot against Haris Rauf from different angles, and I've just put those screenshots there. And I just thought, that shot deserves
phenomenal.
So, I mean, it can never come out of my head, right? The more you watch it, the more you feel that the guy's achievement is phenomenal. That in that innings, what he did was second to none. We have a comment here from Siddharth as well. 98 versus Park, and yes, definitely Virat Kohli hundreds in Adelaide. Absolutely, yeah. I think if we take the format, across formats, yes, those 200s in Adelaide was phenomenal, and the Hobart innings as well, 133 for sure. I mean, we're talking about two champions, right? We're talking about two absolute champions. So it's so hard to quantify or even point out that one single instance, right? So it's
And Virat himself has said, never compare me to Sachin because I started playing cricket after seeing Sachin. So the fact is that, yeah, it's a good show to have, but I think both of them would agree that,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's the reason why, Mahesh, we wanted to kind of bring up objectivity in this discussion, right? Instead of just saying as a fanboy that the numbers don't tell, numbers are greater in favor of Virat or in Sachin or whatever, right? But we can always objectify and kind of come to conclusions based on certain factors instead of just talking in thin air, right? So I think that's the reason why we wanted to kind of have this discussion.
If Virat continues this second win in 2023 that he's got, Sachin had this 3 year phase when he was 30, actually coincidentally around the same age, both
Yep.
were 32, and now if Virat continues second win, I think all of us will agree that Virat will turn out to be the greater ODI batsman if he's not already. Yeah, if he has another second win and wins us the World Cup this year, I think that's something icing on cake for Virat. Yeah.
Agreed. Can't agree more. And so coming back to Rajit's demand, one final prediction for the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Bash, quickly.
2-1 India.
Okay, Mahesh.
2-0 India.
Rajit.
3-1 India.
All right, I'll go with Bash. 2-1 India. I feel there'll be a drawn test somewhere, and or there might be a test that's rained out on the last day. I don't want that to happen personally, but there might be something of that sorts, and there'll be one test where Australia will surprise us, and probably this could be the coming of age for Nathan Lyon in India.
The only reason is because we don't have Pant. That one test which we lose.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a huge factor to miss.
That's a big factor. Especially in Test cricket, we'll miss him quite a bit.
Yeah. Agreed. Alrighty, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Lovely discussion today, and had a great time discussing all these, kind of taking us back to the 90s era from where we started following cricket. And, it's always good to kind of go back in time and relive those memories and moments. Great. See you guys soon again.
Bye.
And, hopefully we should see some great action in the next ODI game and the Test series to follow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.